awardees. We're going to start with Amy Brenneman, who's going to be introduced by Carmen Chandler.
Hi. Most of you know Amy Brenneman was a talented actress, writer, and producer. She is a founding member of the acclaimed Cornerstone Theater Company, which specializes in site-specific original theater pieces centered on themes of social justice. It often incorporates members of the community to ensure that their voices are heard. Her movie credits include Heat, Words and Pictures, the Jane Austen Book Club, Fear, Casper, and things you can tell just by looking at her. Her television credits include Judging Amy, which she created and produced. The show was based on the work of her mother, the Honorable Frederica Brenneman, who was a judge in Connecticut's Superior Court system. She also appeared in NYPD Blue, Frasier, and Shonda Rhimes' Private Practice. Most recently, she's had a recurring role in Rain, and she currently stars in the thought-provoking HBO's show Leftovers. And since her capacity seems boundless, she also is producing NBC's Heartbeat, a show about a female heart transplant surgeon. I don't think Amy's aware of this, but some of us at CSUN have a soft spot for Heartbeat. The show often uses corners of the campus for its location shoots. Amy also produced and directed the documentary The Way the World Should Be, about the Chime Institute. Housed here at CSUN, Chime has been hailed as a national model for inclusive education. That's how she and I met. Our kids went to Chime's public charter school. It's a school where typical learning, gifted, and special needs kids learn side by side and from each other. It's an amazing educational environment where children thrive and their educational growth takes place in leaps and bounds. While working together on projects for Chime, I realized what a truly phenomenal woman Amy is. Not only did she lend her celebrity to fundraising efforts for the Institute and its programs, she created Chimapalooza, a now annual celebrity-filled night designed to draw attention and, of course, money to Chime's mission, which, among other things, is to help people look beyond preconceived notions about what children can do. With the right resources and support, children can accomplish way more than you can ever imagine. Her passion for breaking down barriers isn't just limited to education. She has long been an advocate for women's reproductive rights, the feminist majority, and the Brady Center for Handgun Control. She has traveled on behalf of CARE's program for mothers and infants in Peru. And she has the courage of her beliefs. In the fight to preserve her reproductive rights, Amy has talked publicly about her own abortion at age 21. She added her name and her story to the amicus brief presented to the U.S. Supreme Court earlier this year in the Whole Women's Health versus Hellerstedt case. It's that courage and passion and her firm belief that we can't just sit back and let bad things happen, that we have a responsibility to do something, that I am so grateful for. I have 2 girls, and I count her among their role models. Just watching her move gracefully from being a Chime mom, she has 2 kids, Charlotte and Bodie, to actress, to drama teacher. I forgot to mention that Amy taught the after-school drama program at Chime for a while. To social justice activists has inspired my girls. It's one thing for a mother to tell her daughter that they have control over their own bodies, that they can be anything they want, and that they have a responsibility to give back. But when someone they know embodies all of that and more, it makes it real. For that, I thank you. And all the years we've known you, the fact that you're a famous actress never made an impression on my girls. What did was your passion for social justice and doing what was right. When you were Madi's drama teacher, I asked her how it felt to have a famous actress as her teacher. Madi looked at me like I was nuts. She told me that you were a mom and a good teacher who happened to be an actress. Though she was pretty excited you were working with Christopher Eccleston, the 9th Doctor from Doctor Who fans. After hearing you speak in an event marking the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, Annalisa turned to me and said she was glad to know someone like you. Amy's pretty amazing. I wish there were more women like her. I couldn't agree more. I am proud to present to you CSUN's Phenomenal Woman Award.
Getting a phenomenal woman. I feel like Mari really gave me this award, so thank you, Mari. Oh my goodness, thank you. What a wonderful gathering, and I just, thank you. Thank you, Amy Hanratty. Thank you, everybody at CSUN. Thank you, Carmen. Yeah, I have a lot of ties to CSUN. I wrote this whole thing, and now I don't really feel like, anyway. I love this place. I have produced theater here. I've dropped my kids off to rehearse here. I see stuff here, and it is definitely, I'm so grateful for it. Okay, so I'm standing here today a little shaky because I lost my dad 12 days ago. So I'm right in that new pocket. So some of you might be aware of my mother's activism because I just ripped her off mercilessly to create Judging Amy and her work in the judicial justice system. And my dad, because he's a classy New England dad, stayed in the background of that whole schlemiel. But I do feel compelled to read the tail end of his obit to give you an idea of my other half of origin. So my dad was in environmental law and activism. Mr. Brenneman was a pioneering member of the environmental movement in which he was active for over half a century. From the movement's infancy in the 1960s until his passing, Mr. Brenneman devoted countless hours to the conservation and management of forests and open land, the control of air and water pollution, and the development of environmental and energy policy. So he was one of the gang that started the first EPA, basically. He also, I guess in light of this conversation, which is not something, it's a new thought, but because he's so on my mind, I was beloved by my dad. I just was, that male gaze for me was adoring and interested. And it has allowed me to choose a partner who looks at my daughter the same way. So I always, you know, whenever I'm talking about reproductive rights, I like to have my husband with me because it's wonderful to have our consciousness raised, but you know, without sort of the patriarchy changing, we can only get so far. So I grew up with activists, although interestingly we never used that word. I don't think it was in vogue then. We did talk about good law and bad law. And the good law was helping people, the environment, nonprofits. The bad law was corporate, which of course my brother went into, but he's one of the few corporate lawyers who's not actually motivated by money. And we definitely looked askance at people who were motivated by that. So it was all sort of confusing for me as well when I left my groovy nonprofit theater company and started working in Hollywood and what that would do and be. But I've had an amazing time, mostly because I immediately met the most mentally healthy person I know, my husband, who was raised in Hollywood. So I thought, okay, New Englander, just take a chill pill about the whole Hollywood thing. It's really not that bad. So in my adult life, we have constantly explored, and this is what's on my mind today, this water wheel of being human, where our internal life, something that occurs to us internally, a need to express a problem that we're working on, a passion, goes through the beautiful matrix of our individuality and gets outwardly expressed. And that's certainly what my parents did, and sometimes consciously and sometimes not. Envisioning things that don't yet exist and being the change that we want to see. I had that experience co-creating Chimapalooza, a fundraiser that Carmen just talked about with Amy Hanratty, who's here today. And like my dad before me, I saw a need and I thought, I think I know how to do this. And I think it might be fun. And I think it will use my specific skills as a theater artist. Creating that event was as fulfilling as anything I've ever done. Creating something that didn't exist, but with a little bit of vision and a whole lot of collaboration, something new is born and expresses something that needs to be expressed collectively. So I think that one of the reasons I'm standing here is because of my mouthy involvement with repro rights. And here we're back to the theme of getting some skin into the game. So what I realized this year is that I'm a storyteller. I'm actually not an opinion spouter. What touches me is specific stories, not political platforms. And I'd always been vocal about my pro-choice view, and I'd actually talked about the fact that I had had an abortion years ago, but I hadn't chosen at that time to tell specific details. However, in the fall of 2015, I realized that one of the ways we were getting pulled backwards to an era where women were not in control of their own bodies was because of vagary and euphemism. And if we're going to talk coherently about reproductive rights, it was vital to have people start telling their real and specific stories. So that's what I did when I become part of an amicus brief to the Supreme Court with the Center of Reproductive Rights and their Draw the Line campaign. And it honestly didn't seem like a big deal to me at the time, just a continuation of a path I'd been on. But somewhat surprisingly, experience has been transformative. And I'm thinking today, as I receive this wonderful award, at the same time I receive these extraordinary emails and notes from people whom my father's life touched, I'm thinking that our lives themselves are the creative act. And it's how we use our short time on this earth, how we go through the day, what we choose to think about and value, that touches and transforms people. It's not a new thought, but really seeing today tangible evidence of a long life, well and lovingly lived, is all the inspiration that I need. So there are good guys out there. My dad was one. Thank you.